Hey everyone, TheStimpyland here. Now I know it's been quite a while since my last video, and I apologize for not having so many videos up, but today I'm finally back, and I'm going to describe in great detail why I think Jak and Daxter is mediocre.
And you know, I guess that's why I've always been so biased towards Sora X Cloud fanfiction. It's so beautiful and simple, but at the same time, so elegant.
Who the fuck is this?
Who the fuck am I? You can't just come in here asking me shit like that. Who the fuck are you? How do you like that, huh? Fuck you.
Well, I'm TheStimpyland. I do reviews of games and whatnot.
Well, my name's Well, I'm Badman, and I do the exact same thing, and well, of course, when compared to TheStimpyland, my videos are only half as good. TheStimpyland is much better, sexier, and more handsome. And just amazing. He's the Stanley Kubrick of reviewing games, and I'm just a taco, burrito, eating fart, diarrhea, banana. I'm not reading your script anymore. This is just ridiculous. Who writes that? Who writes that in a collaboration? You are a horrible human being.
Well, anyway, since you're here, you want to do a video with me?
Yeah, man, it's been a while since my last collab. Huh. Now the question is, what game are we gonna review?
I was thinking that we should take a look at what many die-hard Crash Bandicoot fans would consider to be a staple in the series. This elusive game being, it's in the title. It's in the title of the video. Just look down, or up, or wherever the fuck they put the title now. It's Crash TWINSANITY. Roll the footage. Just get this over with.
I'm the Badman Land, traveling into parts unknown. Now come with me. Join me on my journey to do things!
Hey, that's my intro!
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm back, and I'm joined by a special guest, Badman Reviews.
Hi.
This is my first collab, aside from that one other Crash history video which I never followed up on since I'm lazy. If you guys like these sort of collaborative videos, then let me know. I'll do more of these in the future depending on the reaction I get.
This video is going to be a bit of an experiment to see if we can combine two very different styles of reviews and sexiness. My videos go for a more comedic style with random bits of parts that I choose to put in whenever I please.
While my videos are a bit more organized, where I give a general overview of the game and offer my own opinion, while sliding in the occasional joke when I can. Badman's style is relaxed, as mine is more formulated. These are two very different styles, so we'll try hard to mesh them together. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, let us know what you think. So, Badman, what game are we reviewing today?
Today we're reviewing Crash TWINSANITY for the PS2. And the Sex Box. Crash Bandicoot was a game series that started back on the Sony PS1. These games were platformers that attempted to take the 2D style of the classic Mario games and put them in a 3D environment. The original series was really successful and made Crash Bandicoot the unofficial mascot for Sony that could compete with Mario and Sonic.
Unfortunately, a contract between the developer and publisher of these games expired after the fourth game, meaning that the next games wouldn't be in the hands of the original creators. The next couple of games were mediocre, with only one real exception. The later games of the Crash Bandicoot series were dismissed as bad attempts to relive the success of the classic games.
When you mention Crash Bandicoot, most people just think of the originals. None of the games after Naughty Dog's departure are really that memorable, except for one, Crash TWINSANITY. Crash TWINSANITY is considered by many to be the last decent Crash game. Stimpy, on the other hand, though, would disagree, but he understands where all this controversy comes from.
This was the last Crash game before a big redesign came along, so it's understandable how people would cling to this game. The calm before the storm, if you will. This is a game that has gotten a really mixed reaction. I mean, with all the Crash games before this, the reaction is pretty black and white. Crash 2? Wrath of Cortex? But believe it or not, me and Badman share a pretty similar opinion on this game. It's okay. Just okay.
It's not really good.
It's not really bad, it's just okay. So anyway, let's start the fucking thing up. The game opens and it's made by, oh dear god, the developers of Wrath of Cortex!
Actually, Stimpy, this game is developed by Traveller's Tales Oxford, not Traveller's Tales Knotsford, the division that developed the Wrath of Cortex. Get it? Because they're not good enough to get into Oxford? Knotsford? It's funny, right? Fuck you.
So the game finally starts up and we're greeted to some cute little title screen music. How quaint.
Anyway, the game opens up like any other classic platformer, with the main antagonist stealing one of the protagonist's clothes and using them as a wait, what? Yeah, let me state early on that this game is fucking out there for a platformer. What a bizarre concept. I really like weird games though, so this is good for me.
Now after our opening cutscene, we find ourselves in Insanity Isle, and something you're bound to notice right off the bat is that this game is much more open than previous installments. As all the games in the series had you following a strict path, this game instead gives you more room to breathe, and the objective is more vague. This is cool. Crash Insanity, instead of going for a formulaic style like the Wrath of Cortex did, goes for a more Spyro the Dragon approach. There's still an obvious goal and an obvious path to follow, but there's plenty of little nooks and crannies to look in and all that fun stuff.
This wide open area gives us plenty of space to work out the game's controls, which I'd like to point out are actually pretty tight. Crash controls satisfyingly enough and everything works out as expected, so I have no real complaints yet.
So we follow Cortex through the jungle in a lengthy tutorial. This is stupid. The tutorial is so long and it's boring and it can't be skipped. I mean, the tutorials are helpful for newcomers, but we are well into the series at this point. I should be allowed to skip these or turn them off. Plus, before, the game gave us wide open space to play with the controls. What was the ever-loving fucking point of that if they're just gonna make a tutorial anyway?
I'm sure newcomers wouldn't be lost if some of these tutorials just didn't exist. Pretty much everything in this tutorial is obvious or can be found out with a few minutes of playing around with the controls and seeing what works. But at the same time, the tutorial is pretty fucking funny. There is plenty of great slapstick humor in this game, and it is very reminiscent of Animaniacs or Looney Tunes.
I'm okay. The spikes broke my fall.
In fact, I believe this game's story was written by one of the writers of Invader Zim or something like that. I don't know. I didn't check, but I think I read it on a Crash Bandicoot memes post or something. This game had me laughing all throughout. It's not afraid to break the fourth wall. It referenced the poor sales of Wrath of Cortex and even the rough development cycle this game had.
Come now, as we explore a new dimension! It should have been 2 new dimensions, but we ran out of time.
Crash follows Coco to this little arena where she reveals her true identity. It's actually Cortex. No surprise there. Now comes our first boss.
The bosses in this game are a bit weak. Some of them actually prove to be pretty fun, but a lot of them just feel repetitive and boring. Bosses are supposed to get gradually harder as they go along, like how the final boss had more and more stages after each attack in Battle for Bikini Bottom. But practically every other boss in this game is just do the same thing 3 times in a row. In fact, 1 or 2 of these bosses actually got progressively easier as the fight went along. That seems kinda backwards.
For what these bosses lack in challenge and design, they make up for in presentation. Each of the bosses are, despite being repetitive, very memorable. There are plenty of fun dialogue and bosses look intimidating. They look fucking great, and the music that accompanies these bosses is often very fitting. In fact, not only do the bosses look great, but the whole game looks great. I really want you guys to just look at some of the details in these levels. Look at the fucking beams of sunlight. Look at those glowing, mushrooms? Oh, fuck it, they're mushrooms. But seriously, some of the atmosphere in these levels is just amazing for a game like this. The Academy of Evil in particular had a fucking amazing atmosphere.
It's definitely not the best looking game of its time, but for 2004 these are pretty good graphics. The game, for the most part, runs at a really steady frame rate. On occasion in the PS2 version the frame rate will drop during the more intensive moments of the game, but it wasn't a major problem. All in all, the game runs really well and it's got some beautiful environments to run around in. It controls well enough, so I don't have any major complaints either. The only thing that bothered me was the tutorial. Although there is something that annoys me in this game. Why is the camera inverted? Why is the camera inverted? No, I'm not going to do that again. That was a stupid joke, and I feel like an idiot for thinking that would be funny in that old review. No, if I'm really going to go down that path, this is the way I'm gonna do it.
After phase 1 of Cortex's fight, we get into phase 2, where we have to fight a giant fucking robot. And I just gotta say, the music in this part is incredibly badass. The soundtrack of this game is made by an a cappella group named Spiral Mouth. If you don't know what that means, all of the music in this game is done only with voices. There's not a single instrument used. The music in this game is incredibly unique, and there really aren't many other games that sound like this. The soundtrack is widely considered the best part of this game and some of the best in the series, and anyone who doesn't like this game's music is just a butt. Right, Stimpy? Stimpy?
Right.
You monster!
Yeah, that's right. I don't like TWINSANITY's music.
You sit on a throne of lies!
I think this game's music is annoying.
You sit on a throne of butt sacks.
Yes, I'm acknowledging it, and I'm gonna talk about it. In my old review of this game, I said TWINSANITY's music was annoying. Now, I'll admit that I was overdoing it a tad in my old review, but I still kinda stand by what I said. I think some of my most hateful comments came from my old TWINSANITY review, which was mostly positive, but because I talked negatively about the music, that somehow warranted all these death threats. I do have to give credit to TWINSANITY, its music is one of a kind. There are not many games that have a music similar to TWINSANITY's. Very much like Spyro's soundtrack, it is extremely identifiable and recognizable. Also, it's pretty damn impressive. I'll admit that upon first hearing that this game's music was all voices, I didn't believe it. I swore I heard an instrument in there once or twice. Credit where credit is due, Spyro work is impressive. But is that synonymous with it being just really good? I don't know. I can say that most of this is subjective, and that I might be nitpicking. However, this game's music did get overzealous at times. In a few instances, it was so obnoxious that I actually found myself turning the game's music off in the options. No joke, this is actual footage of me pausing the game, turning the music down, opening iTunes, and playing different music instead. There are songs in this game that I actually did like, and for most of the songs that I didn't like, I could say it was just subjective. But there are some songs that make no fucking sense at all, like the music to Slip Slide Icecapades. Awesome, at first. Halfway through the song, it decides to go into Limp Bizkit mode. It's incredibly annoying. It makes me want to go all Reservoir Dogs and cut my ear off. But that's only one extreme case. I'd say give this game's music a listen. You might love it, you might hate it. It's got a unique, one-of-a-kind style that's incredibly recognizable, but on the other hand, it can be repetitive and it can be annoying. For this review's sake, we'll say the game's soundtrack is average, since it's not really good, but it's not really bad, it's just average. There, was that so bad, man?
Fuck you!
So we move on to the next level, Cavernous Catastrophe, where we see Crash and Cortex team up. That was kind of the gimmick with this game.
You guys remember the old trailers of this game that used to run back on Nickelodeon? They're working together, but they don't have to like it! On the back of the box, they show off all of Crash and Cortex's new moves. Roller Brawl, Twin Slam, Spank, Twin Throw, Humiliskate, and Censored? TWINSANITY lets you control a number of different characters. You've got Crash, who's the stock character of this game. Then there's also instances where you get to play as both Crash and Cortex at the same time. These segments are actually pretty cool, whether it be rolling around in a ball, using Cortex as a skateboard and possible sex slave, or just platforming with both of them at once. TWINSANITY is constantly throwing curveballs. It's not a game that'll get tiring after a while, and there's plenty of variety to keep you engaged throughout.
We also get two other playable characters, one being Cortex and the other being his cyborg niece, Nina, who's also a new character. Cortex kinda sucks ass in this game. When playing as Cortex, you get to use his blaster. Basically, all you have to do is mash square and just watch everything die in front of you, including your interest in the game. I hear people praise this game as such a phenomenal platformer, yet I couldn't stand these segments with Cortex at all. They were incredibly boring. This was probably the worst part of the game. Nina was different. Not really good or bad, just different. You know, that kinda seems to be a theme with this game. She can use her arm as a grappling hook, which is pretty badass, but that's really it. Hey, at least they tried something different. I just found these segments kinda boring.
Well, you know what? I find you boring.
Thanks.
The gameplay is decent enough. Crash and Nina are fun, and there are plenty of creative ideas that are expressed with Crash and Cortex, although Cortex alone is pretty terrible. But up to this point, we could say that this game is a good game. Well, there's a reason we consider it average. The glitches. Crash TWINSANITY glitches are their own YouTube category now. You can break this game in half, and it really isn't that hard. Now, it's true that the glitches don't get in the way too much, because I hardly found any on my playthrough of the game. But the glitches don't make any attempt to hide. It does not take a lot of skill to break this game. It shows that this game clearly did not get the amount of testing that it should have, whether it be Universal rushing the team or just laziness on Oxford's part.
In a way, the glitches can actually make this game a lot of fun. Maybe that's the reason this game is so popular among fans. There are so many glitches in this game that if you try to abuse them, your run of the game can be completely different from someone else's. They offer a special kind of replay value that this game otherwise lacks. However, this obviously wasn't the developer's intent. Oh, and speaking of the replay value, there's practically none in this game. First off, the game is very short, and it's very easy. The game only took me about 4 or 5 hours to beat with no glitches. Hell, the thing is as short as Badman's cock. Well, yeah, all the Crash games are generally short, but the replay value is a significant draw to them. What would Crash 2 be without the gems? It would be absurdly short. What would CTR be without all the extra challenges and modes? Incredibly short. Now, it is true that TWINSANITY does have gems to collect, but these really don't count. Gems don't come from breaking boxes, but just by doing puzzles and finding them in hidden spots. Finding these gems really isn't hard. At all. It's just tedious. It feels like a real waste of time. True, the gems do give you concept art, FMVs, and other goodies, but only the real nerds like Badman are gonna care about this sort of stuff. Maybe it's because the rest of the game is so short, but I had a difficult time motivating myself to get everything in this game. I just didn't find it that fun. And even with getting all the gems, it's still just a really short game.
Crash TWINSANITY is a fun experience, but it's also a very short-lived one. This is a game that you'll enjoy the first time, but you just won't find yourself coming back to very often. It doesn't have the same appeal the older games did, so this game isn't really that good, but it's not really that bad either. It's just average.
Would I recommend this game? I can definitely see fans of the older games liking this, but as a standalone platformer, just judging it as any other, it's pretty weak. If you like this game, that's great. Keep liking it, I'm not gonna make fun of you. I just hope that one day you get to appreciate the likes of superior platformers, such as Jak and Daxter, Battle for Bikini Bottom, Spyro the Dragon, Ratchet and Clank, or the original Crash games.
I'm the Badmanland, and I give this game a 10 out of 7.
Fuck you! Thanks for watching this fun little collab me and Badman made. Now, believe it or not, both of us actually made reviews of this game before. The reason why we're doing it again is because our old reviews sucked. If you want to see Badman and some shoehorned shitty character named the Doppelgamer, you can click here to see his old Crash TWINSANITY review. And if you want to hear an obnoxious remix of me shouting "Why is the camera inverted?" that goes on for way too long, you can click here to see my old Crash TWINSANITY review. Warning, these old videos suck, and you may lose brain cells in the process of watching them.
If you'd like to have an actual good first impression of our stuff, then you can click here to see Stimpy's Spyro 2 review. It's actually kind of decent for a butthead like TheStimpyland. And if you want to see some of my super sexy awesome reviews, click here to see my sequence review. Thanks for watching.
And we'll catch you next time.